Hello Pixies, and welcome to or back to my channel. It's Zoe here, and today I'm going to be talking about books that I've had my eye on for quite some time. Now, like many other booktubers and book fanatics in general out there, I have a long list of books on my to-be-read list. It only ever really seems to grow and never really shorten. I have a very, very long list of books that I would like to eventually read. Now, to be fair, some of those books that are on that list maybe don't really pique my interest anymore. However, there are still many on the list that I would really like to read. Without further ado, let's just get started with the list. The first book I have on the list is actually a series, and that series is The Chronicles of Pryden. These are classic, like, children's middle grade fantasy stories. The first one in particular is the Book of Three. And what's special about this book in particular, or this series in particular, is that this actually inspired the Disney movie that was animated back, I believe, in the 80s, The Black Cauldron. It follows the same storyline, and The Black Cauldron is actually one of my favorite Disney movies. Of course, there's ones I love more than it, but I have absolutely always loved this movie. It's so different compared to other Disney movies, and I think part of that is because it's based off a book instead of a fairy tale, and also it isn't their own cast reimagining something, it's taking someone else's imagination and creating something of it. And I believe specifically The Black Cauldron follows like kind of the plot of the first book. It might have plot points of the other books since it is a multi-book series, but I believe it mostly follows the first book. According to the description of the first book, the Book of Three, we follow Taran, and Taran has always wanted to be a hero, but instead he is looking after a prophetic pig, much like in the movie. And the prophetic pig's name is Henwin, and she has powers to see the future, of course. But then one day, Henwin goes missing, so Taran must go on an adventure in order to save Henwin. But then, along the journey, he comes across the Horned King and also the Cauldron-born. Taran and the Horned King are on this race to find the prophetic pig. Like I said before, I absolutely love The Black Cauldron. I really do think it's a really great story, and I want to read where that story came from, so I'm very interested in this series. It's just a little bit different from my reading taste because these are classics. They came out in the 60s. That's the first book on this list, and that's actually at the top of my physical list. That is the first book I put on there because I've been wanting to read it since I learned that The Black Cauldron was based off of this series. The next book is The Antidote by Shelley Sakier, I believe is how it's pronounced, but I could be wrong. There's multiple books that are titled The Antidote, but this is the one I'm specifically talking about. And in this book, we follow Fee. And Fee is magical, but she's keeping her magic hidden because it's not a good thing to have in this world, and there are people who want to snuff out magic for good. But there are lots of healers in this world, and so Fee is either studying to become or is a healer, and she is best friends with Zavi the prince. Then Zavi becomes very ill, and nothing that she can do with her healing abilities is making him better, so she decides to use her magic on him, magic he doesn't know that she possesses. But then when she does perform this magic, that leads that group of people who wants to extinguish magic out of the shadows and after her. This is more like that classic kind of like YA kind of story. Like, we've seen it before, I believe, or like our main character has hidden magic. Magic isn't a good thing to have. It's illegal. It's this, it's that, horrible things. We've seen it time and time again, and I'm very, very aware of that fact. But that still doesn't stop me from being intrigued. And honestly, it's popular because people like it. So like, there's nothing wrong with reading something with a popular trope, for lack of a better word, in it. It's just caught my attention for a while. This is actually the only book on this list that I physically own. I found this book in a Second in Charles a few years ago, and I keep putting it on my list to read, and I just haven't gotten around to reading it yet. However, I am really intrigued by it, so I really want to get around to it. Maybe in the next couple of years I will finally read it. And the next one is The Forest of Moon and Sword by Amy Raphael. This is a fantasy middle grade story where we follow Art, and Art lives in this village in Scotland with their mother, but then, and their mother is a healer who uses like herbs and things, but then the village decides that she is a witch and her mother is taken away. And so Art now decides to go on this journey through the forest in order to retrieve her mother, but can she save her mother before it's too late? This kind of is also a classic middle grade type of story where we have a child who is going after somebody to save them. There's many books like this, but this one just really captures my attention. The cover art is beautiful, and I heard someone else talk about it. I don't quite remember off the top of my head who talked about it now, but it just sounds so enchanting, and I love a really good magical middle grade book. Oh, it looks like, actually now that I'm looking at it now, I know this book came out a few years ago, but it looks like it's being re-released next year actually. So I wonder if it was like self-published and then it was picked up, because I know this book is multiple years old. I don't know the backstory of that. If you do know about it, please let me know. I would love to know. Next up is one that's a bit different, especially for my reading taste, because this is actually a sci-fi novel, and this is Persephone Station by, how do I pronounce this person's name? Stina Leached. Something like that. I'm so sorry I butchered that name. I just honestly don't know how to pronounce it. But this is a book about this planet that's called Persephone Station, which is largely ignored by that classic like multitude galaxy union type things, if that makes sense. I believe in this one it is called the United Republic of Worlds. And on this planet we follow two characters. We follow Rosie, who owns a bar which either like treats or hosts criminals or tourists, and we follow Angel, who is one of those criminals who comes to the bar. And then one day Rosie has a job for Angel, but this becomes very political, I believe, because it goes against like this republic. I don't really quite know the rest. It's said to be for fans of The Mandalorian and Cowboy Bebop. I do enjoy The Mandalorian, even though I would say I am not the biggest Star Wars fan in the world. Like, I like some of the Star Wars things and I don't like some of the others. What can you do? And Cowboy Bebop. And what I have seen of Cowboy Bebop, I have enjoyed, even though I wouldn't say it's completely my favorite either. But this one just piques my interest. And I remember when I first saw it, I was really intrigued. And also I love it when Persephone is always named for like planets, because it just seems really fitting because of that Greek and Roman mythology theme that we have going on with the planet names in our galaxy. Even though if we really wanted to be accurate, it would be Proserpine, because that's her Roman name. But I digress. I remember I've seen this one in the bookstore many times, and I always think it looks really interesting. Like, the cover art is really cool, and I've just been intrigued by it since I've seen it. It might not be completely for me, so I really like to try it. And I think there is a romance plotline here, which I do like me a good romance plotline. I wouldn't say I'm a romance book reader, but I do like a good romance book plotline, or a story that centers around a romance but has a lot of other things going on. The next one is one of two that I don't really know how to explain, because the descriptions for these are kind of tricky, even though they obviously capture my attention. And this one's actually a duology. It's the Waning Moon duology, and the first book is The 5 Daughters of the Moon. And this is like inspired by the 1917 Russian evolution, but magical. And this is about specifically the Crescent Empire. And so it talks about 5 daughters and of the empire. The oldest one is going to be empress one day, and these are her 4 younger sisters. It's unclear if they're half sisters or full sisters, or if they're all in line for the throne, or only a few of them are. And it all talks about this great machine called the Gagarji. That's how it's spelled. It might not be how it's pronounced, but it is this great machine that is fueled by evil ancient magic. And so we follow the 5 daughters: Celestia, Elise, Sibylla, Muriel, and Alina. I think is how you pronounce all of those names. And they're all like, and so we follow all those plot lines, and this book is rather short, so I feel like it's really going to do a lot, because I did check out this book from the library once a couple of years ago, but then it got returned before I could read it because I was only home for like a week for like spring break a few years ago. So we follow these 5 daughters, and they're all connected to this machine in different ways, except for one of them, who cares more about her love interest than about the machine. So it combines like science fiction technology with fantasy, but set in a historical setting, which I have been enjoying a lot lately. Is kind of like those steampunk, silk punk kind of stories, like where they're historical but different, and they have like technology in them. I've been enjoying those a lot lately, and like I'm just intrigued to see where that story goes. Like, honestly, if you want to read the full description, I would highly recommend it if it does sound intriguing to you, but just know it doesn't really tell you what's going to go on in the story. And the next book on the list is, oh, it actually says it's the first book of a series, which I thought this was a standalone actually, so I have no idea what to expect. But this is a Declaration of the Rights of Magicians by H.G. Perry. If you've been around my channel before, you know for a fact that I love The Magician's Daughter by H.G. Perry, so I'm trying to now go through her backlog of books because I love The Magician's Daughter so much. And this one has a very short description online, but it's basically in a historical fantasy setting, which H.G. Perry really likes, but I think this is, it's set in our world, but different because there is the presence of magic in our world. Like there's a necromancer for revolution in France, there's a weather mage leading Haiti to their freedom, and there's a prime minister that's trying to legalize magic for the common people in Britain, and all these things. And it's like the uprising of magic being seen, and it says, you know, but amidst the upheaval of the early modern world, there is an unknown force inciting all of human civilization into violent conflict, and will require the combined efforts of revolutionaries, magicians, and abolitionists, I don't know how to pronounce that word, to amass this hidden enemy before the whole world falls into darkness and chaos. In that last paragraph of like a 2-paragraph description, that just hooks you right in, doesn't it? The next one is also a part of a series, but it's a series of interconnected standalones, and that is the Practical Magic series by Alice Hoffman. And I think many of us are familiar with Practical Magic because of the movie Practical Magic, which a lot of us love Practical Magic, which is about this witchy family who, like, through the events of one of their ancestors, is banished to this island for being a witch because they could not kill her, but then they are thereby cursed by her with all her descendants to never fall victim of love again. So all the men that these women fall in love with end up dying. And I am a big fan of the movie. Like, I am a really big fan of the movie. I've heard the books and the movies are very different, but I would still like to give them a try. And I know, like, in the first book, we follow the ancestor that is mentioned in the movie. So, like, the first book's about her. And then I believe one of the books is about the aunts, and then one of the books is the book the movie is based after. And we've also got some other ones. I don't believe the second movie will be following one of the other books. I think it's going to be its own story. I just want to see what they're like. I really love Practical Magic. I understand that they might not be completely for me, but maybe I'll be surprised and like them both equally, even if they are different, like a Howl's Moving Castle kind of situation. And actually, I think I'm just going to call it there. I think that was only 7 books. I still have a bunch more books on my list that have intrigued me. If you want a part 2 to this video, let me know down in the comments, or if you just want me to go through a whole list in a video of every single book that's on my TBR and tell you if I'm still interested or not. You can also let me know that, but that might be a bigger challenge for me, to be honest, because the list is so very long and I don't even remember some of the books I put on there. Like, when I look at them, I'm just like, I have no idea what that book is. I don't remember hearing about it at all. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And if you want to see more videos from me, you can subscribe because I will be posting an awful lot this month. So if you want to see more, you can just stick around. And I suppose that's it. So I guess I'm signing off now. Okay, bye.